Oh, happy Sunday!
Happy Sunday!
Oh no, I'm gonna do funnel. Hey, cheers.
It's empty, but
It's so good to see everyone. How's everyone doing?
Let's make it stop.
Welcome everyone to Dungeon Manager Work From Home Edition. We hope everyone's keeping safe and washing hands and staying well and all that jazz. We have no idea if this is going to work, so we'll see. But it's really nice to have everyone.
Just did it like a viral video or something.
Oh, you look like that.
The
avocado. I was going to say the avocado.
wash your hands. Wash your hands.
I love how the cut out every time you raise your hands, Joe. So it looks like no, the hands. I have shoulders. I have hands. I have shoulders.
It does not like me having.
Dancing.
Oh, that if I just keep my hand here, it's fine. Or we just do the rest like this.
As ever, a huge thank you to Graham Muir and Rory O'Sullivan for being our assistant dungeon managers on Patreon. Thank you so much for your support. If you want more information about that, you can find out from the link below. Clap emoji. Great.
Clip.
Guys, I am recording this, so please don't.
You might need to edit bits of this out.
Sure. Okay.
Also, we are available as a podcast on iTunes and Podbean, so feel free to check out all of that there. You can catch up with us and the campaign so far. So I think that's everything. Are we ready to start?
Wait. You have an announcement to make, Edward.
Do I?
Yes. About your hands.
Oh, Catherine did my fingernails.
I did spot that earlier. I thought,
I saw that earlier, and I was like, am I meant? Should I
What's the
Can we get a close-up, please?
So, each week we do this. I thought it would be quite nice if I did my fingernails like a different character. And this one, to kick us off, is Zini.
Oh.
So
we have plans for everyone already.
But yeah, thank you very much, Catherine. I'm hoping to be able to spend this time in isolation and graduate to doing my own nails at some point. But yeah, thank you very much.
I believe in you.
Just don't kill her this episode, Ed.
I'll try.
wait, no, don't try to kill her.
So, are we good to go?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's hope Tech stays with us. Okay, so last time we met, as a group, you had made your way to the upper city of Baldur's Gate, the more affluent and the more prestigious and the more wealthy part of the city, specifically seeking out an old friend of Terra's, Mary Idlewend. A friend from her childhood. The Idlewend name is one that has been linked to a few things that you've come into contact with, specifically the arrival of Ostafar Gate into Baldur's Gate, a man that you are pursuing due to his connection to an organization known only as the First Church. Additionally, the murders going around the upper city of Baldur's Gate, their name has been connected to a few of them, which you discovered upon arriving at Garland House, the home of Mary and Fridolf Idlewend, and their new ward, Nikolai, the son of the Byrne family, one of the first murder victims of the killer in Baldur's Gate. You learnt from both Fridolf and Mary that his parents, specifically his father, an architect, Lord Thomas Idlewend, had attended a meeting shortly before the murders began, a secret meeting that he had told Fridolf not to inform the City Watch about. And all of the victims thus far are those who were present at that meeting. Only two now remain, Lord Thomas Idlewend himself and one Lady Victoria Severill. You found out as well that Nikolai was the only survivor of the Byrne family murders. Taken in by his godparents, Mary and Fridolf, he has been essentially catatonic since. He hasn't talked. All he has done is written and drawn things about the Marrowborn, a fairy tale. Offered a place to stay at Garland House. You all stayed the night, and halfway through, there's a scream from upstairs. A creature, a fiendish, hellish creature coming out of one of the mirrors. A creature that you, Oriana, knew to be a bone claw, but possessed of incredible mental powers. You fought with the creature, and you bested it. But unfortunately, Nikolai was lost. And so, winning, but feeling very much defeated, you threw the rest of the mirrors out into the snow as Mary and Fridolf mourned over the body of their dead child. So, as Dalifar, Oriana, and Terra stand outside, Zini sits on the stairs, and Scarlet, having just cast gentle repose on the body of the young boy, leaves the bedroom. What are you all wanting to do?
Question.
Yes.
Nikolai wasn't at the meeting, was he?
You haven't asked, but safe to assume probably
We
not.
were given a
but-
list of who was there, and they didn't say that Nikolai was one of them.
But presumably he was killed because he was part of
Well,
the
I
family and might have been told
believe-
things.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Safe
Ed,
assumption to make. Yes.
The list of people who've been killed were people who've been at the meeting, but also family members of those people. So it's
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, just needed to clarify that in my head. I apologise.
No, that's okay.
Sorry, who was I stood outside with?
Terra and Oriana.
Terra and Oriana. Okay.
What time is it?
It's around, I think, 2, 3 in the morning.
I'm going to head back inside. And we took all the mirrors out, didn't we? So inside is only Fridolf and or is it Mariana? Mary.
Mary. Yeah.
Fridolf and Mary still inside, sort of mourning. Okay. I'm just going to go inside and go. Oh yeah, because gentle repose, didn't she? I'm just going to go to the main room and have a seat.
Okay.
There's nothing more that I can do for now.
Okay, so you take your seat in the dining room, and you walk past Zini, sat on the stairs, looking drained, frankly. Oriana and Terra, is there anything you'd like to do?
I think I watched Dalifar go in, and then just look at Oriana, and then follow after him.
So Zini, you watch as first Dalifar and then Terra come in, and Scarlet, you see from your vantage point on the landing, your companions start to file back in.
Is a silly question, maybe. Is there like a procedure for police and stuff? Like, do you need to report a crime? You know, like, is there like a 999 kind of equivalent? Or
I mean, most crimes you know from most cities you've gone to usually either have to have crimes reported directly to them. So in this instance, someone report that there has been a murder, or City Watch happened to be passing at the time. There's no real communication system set up other than just going to your nearest barracks, really.
Okay. But yeah, you might not, so you don't necessarily have to do that immediately then.
Not necessarily, but I guess it's down to personal preference.
Did Oriana tell the rest of us what it was?
No, I think it was in the heat of battle.
Okay.
I'm going to stay outside, and not that any of the other characters can see it unless they come out, but I cry.
Okay. It's cold against your face, the tears. The wind is still bitter and the snow whirling around you, but for as much as it can help, it is at least somewhat cathartic. Zini.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Are Mary and Fridolf in the bedroom with Nikolai?
Yeah, they're upstairs.
They are. And Scarlett's in there too?
Scarlett's on...
Madman.
Yeah.
Okay. Just need this. Don't have a plan. Just.
Okay.
to know.
So, Zini, is there anything you're doing?
Just staring into space, slowly dripping blood on the floor.
Okay.
Because I'm quite hurt.
Yeah. So, Dalafar, you watch as terror starts to enter the dining room as well.
Have you ever seen anything like it? Terror.
What, skeletons coming out of mirrors? No. Nothing so specific. Do you think that was the Marrowborn?
Whatever it was, it scared little Nikolai to bits, and we just need to find out what's going on. If there are more of them out there, ideally that would be the only one that we needed to slay in order for these killings to stop, but something tells me that that's not the case, and it's very optimistic.
Did I see him get his sort of soul absorbed, or I can't remember what point that happened.
I think you were... It happened as the creature essentially shifted out of the room. So I think it was Zini,
So I didn't see it.
Scarlett, and Oriana who saw the shadow essentially leave the boy.
Okay, so Dalifar wasn't in there either.
I think so.
I was in the room.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Oh, you're in the room as well.
I was in the room
think,
because we were fighting.
Oh,
so I think it was everyone accepting terror.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, what happened in there? How did it, what happened?
Well, 1 minute we were fighting it off. I managed to hit the mirror. That seemed to scare it. And then it sort of disappeared, and the next thing I know, Nikolai is just gone.
What, his body is gone?
No, it looked like his soul left him. It looked like his body was here, but not all of him.
So we're looking for something that absorbs souls.
At this point,
When he
yeah.
killed the creature, did it it didn't look like souls escaped it or anything?
No, I'd say, because you were all sort of in quite close proximity around it, but as far as you saw, it just kind of shattered. Oriana very much bisected it in two. And as you look towards the hallway behind you, and sort of you can still see the remnants of it on the ground, bits of bone, the skull obviously you took for yourself, but you can still see the bits of skin on the ground as well.
Why did I want the skull? Oh well.
I think you took it because it was distinctive.
Okay.
It was distinctive and decidedly non-human.
Okay, so I'll look at the skull and say, well, if there was any chance of getting his soul back, I don't think that we have that chance anymore. And then I put the skull back in my back.
Whatever it was, we need to let the guard know, because at least now we'll have a very good reason, having first-hand experience in fighting this thing, that they'll most likely be willing to let us get into the other sites that this happened, potentially we could find some clues there.
So what, you think we should report this to the official watch and then ask permission to investigate?
I think it'll be a good idea. Plus, also, Mary has her influence, and the fact that this happened to another well-known family, and we were the only people to have successfully fended this off, even seen it potentially. It'll be a good idea to look for more answers.
Okay.
At this point, I'll come back inside the house.
Okay. You watch as Oriana comes in, door swinging shut behind her, and the gale of the blizzard outside subsiding somewhat.
Where was Zini?
Zini's on the stairs, yeah?
Just outside the room where we are? Or...
Yes.
Okay. I think Zini... I'm going to see how Zini is, because it looked like when it grabbed her, something happened before she was able to snap out of it. I just want to make sure she's okay. I get up and walk towards the stairs.
I presume I'm standing next to Terra at the moment.
Awkward.
I'd like to turn towards Terra and ask, have you ever seen anything like that before?
Why does everyone think I've seen
I was just
before?
Have you though?
You
It's
seem
because you're the
like
most
the
competent.
person.
We're all
I mean, you've come out of mirrors as a skeleton form before.
I walk over to Tara and ask her if she's known.
I think I say that. I say, why does everyone think I've seen this before? No, I have not. Fortunately. And why have you?
Can I clarify how much do I know about this?
You've certainly never seen one, but you know that they're creatures from the Nine Hells. They are...
Do I know specifically, like, how they come about?
Because you rolled really well last time, you are aware that more often than not they are summoned. They usually have a creator.
And would I know whether or not there are more, or...
You know that there are more of these creatures, but as for this specific situation, impossible to tell, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, what he said. Yeah. I've,
Is there one here?
what the voice inside my head said.
She's breaking the fourth wall. Is she just expecting to...
So matter right now. Yeah, I've never seen one before, but they are normally summoned by someone.
Okay.
So,
Where did you learn about this?
oh no. In I've been to a lot of places in my search for the god that I follow, and it's resulted in me finding out about a lot of things that I wish I didn't know existed. But unfortunately I do, and if I can help in these situations, then I guess it's not a bad thing that that I know.
Okay. And then I follow Dalibor again.
So, Zini, as you're sort of gazing into space, staring towards the green carpeted floor, you just see 2 armoured boots just stop in front of you.
I don't react.
I just sit down next to Zini. Are you alright?
What?
Are you alright?
No. Are you?
No. I've lost friends, but I think this is the first time I've tried everything that I could, and an innocent child lost their life. And despite my every effort to stop that from happening, just wasn't enough this time.
Yeah.
And I just lean on my ex, sort of hands on, and just sit in silence.
I wait for a couple of minutes to go by, and then it was in my head.
In your head?
It wanted me to kill the boy.
But you didn't.
But I could have. If you hadn't hit it hard enough.
It took all of us to bring it down. You didn't do the things that it told you to do in your brain.
Because of you.
I just smile and I nod.
So I then get up, and there are still bits of bone and things on the floor, aren't there?
There are, yes. Like I say, you've got the sort of inside-out skin that formed a sort of makeshift robe on its lower half. You've got bits of bone and spine and ligament over the ground.
Has anybody investigated it? Obviously, Terra took the skull, but...
I don't think thoroughly, no.
Okay, can I investigate the remnants to see if there's any distinguishing marks or clues as to where this thing came from, or what it was, whether it was... I'm trying to not meta it in the sense that I don't know that it served somebody, but I can't
clues.
think... basically.
Okay, yeah, make an investigation check for me. First roll of self-isolation.
It's terrible.
4. Honestly,
Oh, no.
and the rest of you watching Zini as she stands and makes her way down the stairs, you are still kind of in...
What?
What is that, sorry?
Hang on.
You're back. It just
You're back.
I'm back.
goes out for
Okay.
like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
So whenever it happens, you just need to like repeat your last sentence, and that's it.
That's okay. So yeah, because you are still very much in a daze, you look, and it's quite not a half-hearted search, but it is nothing really that you recognise. But you all watch as you see Zini sort of rifle through the dusty remains of the bones, and but nothing as far as
I'm kind of thinking that every time I pick up a bone, I'm just getting a flash of it speaking to me again.
Yeah.
when I went out to follow Dalafar, I think I probably heard them talking on the stairs, so I didn't go out into the hallway, but I just stayed.
Okay.
Like behind a pillar or whatever.
Okay. You hear it. It's a smallish house. You hear the exchange.
One more time.
Yeah. I'm going to plug it.
Oh dear.
Tech, everybody. What can you do?
How's that?
I can hear you better through the wall.
Okay. How about now?
That's better.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Hopefully this sticks. Yes. Yeah, it's a fairly small house, so you're able to hear the exchange, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm trying to eavesdrop. I think it's more just kind of a private conversation. I'll just not go and interrupt that. I'll just stay here.
Sure.
But if I happen to hear it, that's fine.
And Scarlett, upstairs, is there anything that you're wanting to do at all?
I'm kind of surveying the area. There's a lot of emotion going about. It's a bit much, to be honest, for the Scarlet. She's not used to this negativity. What can I see from I assume I'm at the banister.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say using your passive perception, you can see your friends downstairs sort of gathered in the hallway. You can see the remains of the creature lying sort of across the floor. And sort of as you're standing there, you feel something just rub up against your leg, and looking down, you see the six-limbed form of Juliet just looking up at you and just...
I scoop her up in my arms.
It's kind of a long cat situation.
Yeah, she's
again,
so big.
She's getting heavier now, but yeah, she appreciates it nonetheless and just...
Aww,
Yeah.
just such a sweetie. Obviously, Scarlett has not, unlike my other characters, has not trained in necromancy. But what would I know? Would I know anything about this from my?
I'd say make an Arcana check for me.
That's good. I'm having to do it on my phone because, despite my background, I have no dice. It's really sad. Okay. Let's see. Oh my gosh, that was an actual 20. Hold on, let me show up to the camera.
You can't see
Oh,
it.
we can't see
it. Lies.
I think there's probably a natural 20 in there somewhere. We'll find it later.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
Oh, yeah, I
We saw it. It's fine. Yes.
So
I've solved the murder.
So you, similar to Oriana, you would know that certainly sort of being in the room with this creature, this is traditionally you would know that this is a creature that has to be conjured and created and formed.
Yep.
That's not the magic you were picking up in the room, though. In the room, quite heavy, as well as...
No, start from the beginning.
God damn it. So that's not the magic that you felt in the room. You as well as the quite heavy necromantic energy that you felt in that room. So,
It's saying that it's muting you. It's coming up as saying that you're muted.
hang on, let me.
Where was this,
I'm not
everybody?
doing anything.
Couple of
No.
Michael's just there ha ha.
I think I think Zoom did the murder because it's trying to stop us.
Okay, I'm going to continue trying this, and then if it doesn't work, I'll just use the laptop mic. But yeah, so as well as the quite heavy necromantic energy that you felt in the room, you also were picking up a large amount of transmutation magic. The ability to transform one thing to another.
Interesting. Did I feel that particularly around the mirrors, or was it just a generalized thing that I couldn't
specifically
specify?
the creature itself.
Ah, interesting.
Good thing I picked up the skull, eh?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know what sort of medieval CSI looks like, to be honest.
Hey, come on, put on some
there are
dark
no
shades.
sunglasses. Yeah, there are no
Oh,
sunglasses.
yeah.
I mean, I
Oh,
have
I've
some, but
got
I'm not.
goggles. I've got goggles of night, so I can do.
Just every time you do a pun, just like strap them on and then make your pun.
And then make a horrible Dragonborn call.
Yeah.
That's everything that you were able to pick up from what you witnessed in the room.
That's good to know. I think I make my way down the stairs with Juliet awkwardly in arms. She's
like,
she's fine. She's loving it. It's fine.
Her back two of her 6 legs are practically dragging along the stairs in front of you as she just like...
She loves it. It's fine. It's fine. Oh dear.
So you will watch as Scarlet joins you downstairs.
How
I
are
put
they?
down Juliet.
How are they?
This thinking is in character, by the way. It's not just me. As well as can be expected, I suppose they will no doubt need some time.
Okay.
We should all get some sleep and then form a plan in the morning.
Obviously, having spoken to you, are we all in the same hallway now?
Yeah, like between the dining room and the hallway, like it's all open. So,
Okay.
So yeah, you can see and talk to one another.
Well, I'd never seen anything like that, so I'm fresh out of ideas of what it could possibly be. I've spoken to Tara already, but have any of you three seen or heard of anything like this before?
I mean, Tara's the expert, so...
Tara, have you
Having spoken to my source,
No, that was a joke.
I look at Oriana.
Never come across one before, but I have heard of them, and what I know is that they are created normally. Slightly out of game. I think I made a note from the last session that they normally speak the language of their creator.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it spoke Infernal.
Yeah. So back in game, and they usually speak the same language as their creator, and it spoke Infernal, but it wasn't me.
What did it say? Do we know what it said? We don't know what it said. You know what it said.
I can't remember. What did it say?
It said the missing one.
Yeah.
I think it pointed out the child.
The missing one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's creepy.
That's the missing one.
Okay.
Well, it being a created creature would explain the transmutation magic I felt in the room, alongside the rather heavy blanket of necromancy.
Necromancers.
I think we're due a library trip tomorrow.
Do you say that in character?
Yes. Maybe not all of us, but
We'll do libraries.
maybe some of us who are, the well-read of us, yeah, maybe would be good, and I'll not do that.
Oh, no. Oh, my heart.
Okay.
Yeah,
I want to
yeah,
have
so-
a look at the drawings that he did. And then
Okay.
maybe some of us can go and speak to Mr. Idlewent. Is it just Mr. Idlewent? That's what I've got written down.
You would probably know, I think by this stage, that Lord Idlewent.
Okay, so still no first name.
Thomas.
His name is Mr. Lord Idlewent.
Lord Thomas Idlewent.
Okay.
No, his first name is Mr., so he's Lord Mr.
Middle name Lord as well, so...
Lord Mr. Lord.
Yeah.
So
Better be
maybe,
Australian, Ed.
maybe some of us go to the library, some of us go and speak to him. As one of the only 2 survivors, and the person that we know went to this meeting, I feel like it would be useful to find out what happened at this meeting.
Do I see that Oriana's been crying?
Make an insight check.
Blood is running down my face. My tears are blood.
14.
It's so metal! What, sorry?
14.
Diani, if you could make an opposing deception check for me, please.
Please tell me you do that in person.
Sees Dalifar looking at her and just goes,
What was that?
8.
As much as she tries to hide it, Dalifar, you see smudged ever so slightly just some moisture along her cheek.
I don't say anything.
Good.
Wait, do you say that in person? Because you wouldn't know that I've noticed.
I just look at you and I see you not saying anything and I'm like, good.
No, I just walk up straight to you and I'm just like...
except it's actually like this.
Oh yeah, it's just sort of...
No, it's more like this.
Great podcast material, guys.
Yeah, I know, it's fantastic.
It's like this.
I mean, how tall are you, Diani? How tall is Oriana?
I think I'm like 5'9".
I think I'm like 5'9".
That was a great record scratch. So, is everyone headed to sleep then? Or?
I'd like to first go, assuming that they're still in the little boy's room.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to just sort of slowly go up there, and then, assuming they are still there, just go and place a hand on Mary's shoulder.
You enter, and as you do so, you see the very pale form of Nikolai lying on the bed in his white bedclothes. You see Fridolf kneeling over, sobbing into the bedsheets, and Mary behind him. Silent tears running down her cheeks as she just has her hands over her husband. And as you come over and place your hand on her shoulder, she just takes it and just squeezes, and you can see her knuckles going white, but she grasps.
I squeeze back just for a minute and then quietly leave.
Okay. So, unless there's anything anyone wants to do before they rest.
Yes, can I? I'll just step outside once again and see if there's any patrols around.
Make a perception check.
There's no one else around. Perception is 23.
23. The wind and the snow are still up and wild, and what little you can see is mostly obscured by snow. You wait. You wait for 5, 10, 15 minutes. No patrol passes by in that time. It's not to say that they won't, but while you're stood out there, none come.
I go back inside.
Okay.
And I go back to my sleeping place.
Oh yeah, we were in the living room, weren't we?
Hmm.
So, you all go to sleep, and as best as you can, you have uninterrupted, peaceful nights. Oriana, you try and shake off the feeling of the boy's grip loosening on your cape just before the creature disappeared. And Zini, you try and move past that voice, that horrible, horrible voice just scraping around your skull, the visions of you loosing an arrow into the boy. Thankfully, not by your hands. Doesn't feel any better. You sleep through the night. Mary and Fridolf stay by Nikolai's bedside throughout. The remains of the creature still lie in the hallway, unmoving. Dust, skin and bone. At around 7 o'clock, you hear the front door opening and, sort of staggered, a number of different servants come in. You hear them stop in the hallway before you hear the pitter-patter of feet up the stairs, and you hear sobs, a muffled scream, and you see one of the servants coming down, having just removed her winter coat, suddenly bringing it back on again and just moving out the front door and into the calm winter streets outside. This is how you wake.
Do we get the impression that they've gone to fetch the watch?
It would be a safe assumption, yeah.
I get up and I go away to the front door for the watch.
Okay. What are the rest of you doing?
Is it likely that they would send someone high rank or low rank?
Make a general intelligence check for me, just from your experience in cities.
5.
5. It's hard to tell, especially with how large the presence is in Upper City that you've seen. It's hard to tell. So unless there's anything anyone wants to do in the interim. Oh yeah.
Sorry. No, go on. What were you going to say?
Dalifar, as you stand by the front door, eventually you see the same servant come back. She's got sort of mousy greying hair and she has a furry winter coat made of hides over the top of her clothes. And as she comes, you see 5 figures. City Watch. Each of them with swords and shields slung over their shoulders. And they walk past and through the door. And
Can I see who they are from? Can I look out the window and see if I recognise any of them first?
Yeah, make a perception check.
Such an unsatisfying roll. I can't even see that number. Okay. 18.
18. Not as far as you can see. You can see that from their makeup, there are 4 just City Watch guards, but the other is a sergeant. And she's the one who's leading the way. She's a fairly tall, muscular figure with dark skin and brown eyes. She's got short, curly black hair, and she wears the dark grey uniform of the City Watch with a blue sash round her torso. And she comes in, and the rest of you watch as they file past you, Dalifar, entering the hallway and taking in the creature. And she looks around, points at two of them and says, "Continue watching this. I'm going to go upstairs." And she heads up, with two more accompanying her. And the two guards downstairs get to work looking, and you can see the servant stood off to one side, just hand over her mouth, just shaking her head, and you can see her eyes brimming with tears.
Sorry.
Go on.
No,
I
decided not to do that.
I go up to that very same servant and I just say, best to get the lord and lady a cup of tea if you can. I think it'll make them feel a little bit better.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Make yourself one as well.
Would any of you like anything at all? No?
I'll be along shortly.
She heads off towards the kitchen. After some time, you see Mary coming down the stairs, accompanied by the sergeant that walks with her, and they seem to be discussing the events of the previous night. And the sergeant continues down, and, well, thank you very much. If I have any more questions, I'll be sure to ask you. I would like to talk to your guests, though. And Mary looks at her. They saved our lives. I'm sure I just need to interview anyone who's here. You understand? Yes. And Mary shuffles off into the dining room area. And the sergeant fixes her gaze on you. Hello, I am Sergeant Mariah Lambert of the City Watch. I just want to ask you a few questions, if I may.
Is she talking to me?
Just an open question to the room.
How do you spell her name?
So Mariah, so M-A-R-I-A-H, and then Lambert, L-A-M-B-E-R-T.
Cool. No silly fantasy names here.
No.
It's a local game for local people.
Although I can't spell sergeant, I have no idea how to spell that.
S-E-R-G-E-A.
Yeah.
N-T.
I've done this totally wrong. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Okay, cool.
Cool.
So, how did it come to be that you were staying in Garland House?
I was visiting Mary. She's my friend. And these are my companions who travel with me.
How do you and Lady Idlewent know one another? You said you're childhood friends. You from Baldur's Gate?
Many years ago, yes. I just thought I'd pass by to see how she's doing. Seems the timing worked out, or not.
You don't look like Upper City citizens, am I correct?
Do we? This is me out of game asking this. Do we have to be Upper City citizens to be here, or do our tokens allow entry?
Well, there's the curfew, by which most people are sort of booted out of Upper City who don't live there.
Yeah.
Work and tokens seem to permit people to move around. Mm-hmm. However, it is kind of nebulous as to how this is being enforced and how they're monitoring those with tokens.
And how do people normally get tokens?
From the City Watch.
Okay. Would they know? Would they remember if they gave us tokens? Like, is that okay?
Just avoid pointing them towards any kind of tokens.
Yeah. Okay. What was the question?
You're not Upper City citizens.
No, we're not all local to Baldur's Gate currently. But as I say, we were visiting Mary, and she, once we arrived, informed us of the unfortunate happenings in town and kindly offered us a place to stay overnight, as it's unsafe on the streets.
And she can vouch for your character, can't she?
Yes, I hope so.
May I see your City Watch tokens?
Yes.
She takes it, looks it over, and she hands it back. So what is your business in Upper City? You only hand these out to those with business in Upper City. What is yours?
Why am I the one doing the talking?
I mean, you led the way we're talking. I was like, I'm not going to say anything.
I wouldn't have. It's just that I'm the one who knows the person.
A very reputable business, as you know, sewage.
Don't do this again.
She looks at you.
Oh no! Wait, am I actually there? Oh no!
Well, yeah, you are.
Present.
I think we have to go with it now.
Okay, let's just go with it. Let's just roll with it.
Let's
Let's
go with
just see
it.
what happens.
I say that.
Sewage workers
Yes.
visiting a lord and lady in Upper City.
Everybody
say,
has
we're-
a sewer.
Childhood friends.
Even
And-
rich people have sewers that need
Sewaging.
sorting.
Would you deny the Lord and Lady servicing of the sewers nearby?
So you are here to service their pipes.
No, we were visiting, and in so doing, our profession means that we can service sewers, hence why we have a more usefulness to them. But as my colleague here already said, we were visiting them in the first place.
Make a persuasion, deception. Deception or persuasion? I'll make it your choice.
Can I, what about, I'm involved in this, can I make a roll?
Yeah, both of you. Both of you make a persuasion check.
Just so you know, both of those for me are terrible. Let's go for persuasion.
Okay.
Dirty 20.
5.
She looks at you, Dalafar, and then she looks at your compatriot and... I may have to see some paperwork. If I can ask you to come by Citadel Street tomorrow, then I can see your papers, officiate, make sure that you are as official as you seem to be.
And what papers were these that you need?
Business papers. Just anything to prove that you are who you say you are. And as she says this, she looks quite candidly in your direction, Dalafar.
I just hold my gaze. Don't blink.
Is there anything else that you can tell us about what transpired here last night? Your version of events.
This creature came for the boy, and unfortunately it was successful. It was in the middle of the night, and we did our best once we heard the struggle coming from upstairs. Little Nikolai screamed, and we all hurried upstairs to see what the trouble was. It wasn't the scream of a child just simply having a bad dream. He was truly terrified, and quite rightly so, as I point to the remnants of the creature. We did all we could to try and stop it taking the boy. and unfortunately it was successful. But we managed to kill it before it got away.
Quite handy that sewage workers are so adept with a blade.
Quite
Have you ever
unhandy
been
that
to
the
the
watch
sewers?
wasn't there when they were needed.
Jess is disappearing in excitement.
It's like, I'm not a part of this.
Oh, have we lost
Oh,
the
God.
Well, like I say, tomorrow. In the meantime, I suggest you find other abode. I will be suggesting the same for the Lord and Lady of the house as well.
One question. When we fought the creature, it came out of the mirrors. Now, you can see outside we destroyed all the mirrors in the house. We have heard word that there have been other murders in the much more noble of the houses. Did they all have large mirrors or mirrors of any kind in the house?
You do realize you're asking an officer of the law to divulge details about an ongoing investigation.
One that you can't solve.
And one which we're involved in, and we have managed to kill one of those creatures. If there are more, we do not know. So, yes, the question still stands.
At each of the murders, there's been a cracked mirror in the room. We simply assumed that this was ritualistic behavior, as with the tongue cutting of the servants found at the scene of the crime. Now, there's nothing here that I would say from your story or the Lady of the Houses that absolves them of these murders. They are still considered suspects.
Then you know where their house is. Well, if they move, there'll be no point. From what we've experienced, it is far safer for them to stay in the house. There are no mirrors, and we are extra hands if they should need any kind of help.
Understandable, but this is a investigation now. This is a crime scene.
Then leave your guards here.
Make a persuasion check.
Oh, God damn it.
No, I can't be there to help.
That'll be a 7.
She looks at you, and her somewhat stern gaze falls a little bit, and you see something approaching sympathy in her eyes. And she steps forward and, a little more softly, just says, I understand that you are worried. And I understand you want to protect them. But you must understand, that is my job too. I'm not doing this to inconvenience anyone. I am doing this so that we may investigate and get to the bottom of this as soon as possible. Do you understand?
I'll leave it up to the lady to decide.
Very well.
Will you at least ensure all the mirrors are removed from similar houses in the area?
I will have a word with my high sword and ensure that word is spread throughout the upper city. Obviously, it is something that we are probably unlikely to enforce. We only have so many soldiers at our disposal. But we can put notices out. We can notify the town crier. Hopefully people will get the message. Thank you for all you've done last night. She looks down at the floor, and I will leave you all to it. I'll have some more men arriving shortly. And she walks out the front door, leaving you all. The guards still investigating the hallway, 2 guards still upstairs And at this point you can see Fridolf being guided towards the top of the stairs, and he, fairly gingerly, he looks very pale, starts to make his way down the staircase. Mary sits off in the dining room, her head nursed by her fingers as she just looks down, and eventually looks up as her husband comes round the corner and sits down next to her, and their hands just clasp on the front of the table. They sit in silence.
Have the watch gone?
No, like I say, two of them are still in the hallway and investigating.
Never mind then.
There's an open door between the hallway and the dining room, but you can close it if you want to be alone.
Might be a bit suspicious.
It's her home. It's fine.
Okay, I'll go and shut the door.
Okay.
Wait.
After all of this communication happens, like with eye lines and stuff, we're all looking at the door like, did we close the door?
Wait, are we all in the room that you're going to be in when you close the door, or are we all?
I assume so, probably not.
I mean, would you? I would just follow you.
Are you all joining?
Yeah.
Okay. So you enter into the dining room, and the heavy wooden door shuts behind you. And Mary looks up at each of you and just gives as much of a smile as she can under the conditions.
So here's what I'm thinking. We go to see the watch tomorrow, and we come clean to them as the private detective agency that we are. Show them the papers and offer our services. They said that they're low on soldiers, so we could offer ourselves as both protection and investigation.
Sorry, what papers?
You know, we'll get some papers.
Scarlet, how's your scribe?
What was that to me?
Scarlet.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Delafar, you want me to write up some official papers?
Well, they only have to be papers that we are a detective agency, or private detectives, or a private group of people that assist with any kind of crimes, really, offer our services.
Would I know what that would look like at all?
Okay, question though, because have any of us seen any kind of sort of official papers? Because I think between Oriana and I, because we worked in that, we would have had maybe bounties, because Oriana and I were on a job when we very first met, and
I mean, through I'd say probably Zini is probably the one who has had the least exposure. She's lived in a forest. She doesn't know like business paper. People just like shoot rabbits and deer and subside on that. But
the simple life.
I'd say for the rest of you would know that like officiating a business, especially a detective agency, which I love the way this is going now. But yeah, officiating a business is complex, and in order to forge papers, like you'd probably be able to draw something up, but
so it's not just like one thing with like a logo on it.
I mean, it's essentially got to prove like that you work as sewer workers.
No, we're not sewer workers.
Oh, detective.
We are detectives who were disguised as sewer workers because we're investigating.
Okay.
Let's make it more complicated.
Wait. Quick question.
Yeah.
back in Waterdeep, we had the one. Was it a lieutenant in a lieutenant in the watch?
Yes, you received a scroll of service while you were there.
A scroll of service,
which I believe you still have.
Yes. In that case, we don't need. Okay, I'll just say this in character. I don't think we'll need papers to prove who we are because I still have the scroll of service when we're in Waterdeep, and we did some jobs for them, and because we are essentially freelance helpers, we should be okay.
So we show them proof that we've done good in another city.
Yes.
But how does that explain?
Because those kinds of papers can only be given by the watch of a certain place. That's an official piece of paper, document, sort of giving us sort of better credentials of saying we are who we say we are. And
Except we said that we were sewage workers first.
We can say because we don't know who to trust.
Come clean, and so they're not going to trust us because we lied to them before.
Because we don't know who to trust, and we haven't got to the bottom of what is going on at the moment. And
but what's changed in us then suddenly deciding that we trust this Mariah?
Our hand was forced. By her asking who we are.
It's a very simple way of her forcing our hand.
But it is the truth in the fact you're not trying to lie. More so than anything, the more we lie, the deeper the web, and the more we'll have to try and persuade her we are, and then ultimately, I think it'll just end up in a bad place.
I agree. I don't think we should have lied in the first place, but
I very quickly look over to Oriana and then just look back at Azini.
Well, we couldn't not because we have watch tokens and we have not come here legitimately, so...
Yeah, but how is she... Does she hand out all of the watch tokens? Does one person hand out all of the watch tokens?
But she asked us how we got them, so we would have had to... How else are you going to answer that question while being honest?
True. But she didn't seem very happy to believe that you were a friend of Mary's. She was quite sniffy about it, really.
And that was the one true thing.
Yeah. But, we're not that scruffy, are we?
Well, I see we're not, but we don't look like we belong here. But at the same time...
I say in very blood-stained armour.
Scott looks very offended.
Dented body armour. But there are a couple of things going for us here. One, Mary, and two, the recent events over the night. In fact, that they did happen. There's a remnants of a creature, and she can't deny that we're making that up because she has seen it. And there's a dead boy, unfortunately. And also the fact that we were the only ones so far to be able to do anything about this, she might be more inclined to ask for help, especially seeing that they are short on manpower.
And we know things about the creature.
Exactly.
So maybe before we go to see them tomorrow, we need to have some more information that we've found since to take to them to prove that we are competent. Otherwise, we're not taking them anything.
But don't... Ed.
Yes.
In my dealings with the Knights of the Birch, generally speaking, authority figures don't like it when you investigate stuff without their permission, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Knights of the Birch obviously slightly more officious in that regard because they wanted to control a lot of the land around Geshfort, and a lot of that was land that the Rangers were hunting on in the High Forest. So you've never had a particularly great relationship with authority anyway. But yeah, from your, albeit somewhat limited experience with authority, you are probably aware that certainly in your dealings, most authority forces probably like to do their own investigations.
Tara, I don't... She seems involved. It sounds like she is investigating this to some degree. I don't think she'd appreciate us running off into crime scene or speaking to another person who is at the meeting without her permission.
Okay. So how do we get permission?
Well, by offering our services. As I think, we're trapped in the lie to a degree. If we do come clean, then hopefully she can understand why, but it just seems a little bit flimsy.
I agree. We should get them on our side before we do anything else.
So we're back at square one. How do we do that?
Go see them tomorrow.
As a counterpoint, they have explicitly asked for help around the city. If we were to do something that didn't step on their toes, say Terra's library suggestion, and found anything, that could perhaps give us information that might put them on side while not, talking to witnesses or disturbing crime scenes or doing something else they might find distasteful.
That's a good point. Was I in the room when Dalafar asked everybody whether they knew about the bone claws?
Yes.
Yeah. And we could, if Ariana, you're willing, we could offer them the information you have about the bone claw.
I agree.
Won't they just be annoyed that we didn't tell them that today?
Probably. I think we just have to take
don't
a chance.
necessarily know that we can trust them.
That is true.
So I think that's a valid enough reason to not give them all of the information straight away.
Is Mary in the room?
Yeah, Mary and Fridolf sat a little way off, but they're sat
can I-
around the dining table.
I'm just going to look at them, glance at them, and see what they seem to make of this.
I mean, Fridolf is gone. Fridolf is... The crying has subsided. You get the feeling probably hasn't slept at all. And he's just, in a very similar way to Zini earlier, is just staring off into space. And Mary is just staring at the table, her hand still on her husband's, just staring. Both their eyes are red, and they're both very pale.
I think that we just need to decide whether we're going to investigate this legitimately or not. That's the first decision.
I think legitimately would make our lives so much easier.
But it's harder to get to that point.
Well, playing the scenario out, I think if we were to be in any way, shape, or form found to be we're in a place we don't belong, and we got here by not the most honest means, we are also investigating something that would most likely pee them off. And we said we are not people who are what we said we were. Those things are mounting against us very quickly. And if we were to absolve those now and be given the ideal situations, be given the all clear and allowed to continue investigating, because the worst I think they can do is chuck us out, I think.
Or arrest us for misleading and coming here illegitimately.
That's a possibility, yeah.
We also have to assess. I want to solve this murder. I want to solve all of them. But is the ball the more pressing concern for us? Because if we get chucked out of here before we can get into that ball, we lose Gate, and we lose the information he has.
Yes.
And maybe, because it is the Idlewent Ball, we can meet Thomas coincidentally.
In which case, how do we get the watch off our back?
We go there and give them the paper.
And hope they don't ask us why a sewage company are at the ball. But yes, I think that might be the simplest.
I think we have to be as honest as possible without talking about the ball.
Yeah.
Say we want to help. If they then say, no, we won't let you because we don't trust you, you lied to us, then we say, okay, we understand, but Mary invited us to stay, we stayed, we tried.
Yes. I think our best avenue is being honest.
Okay, so just to clarify, we tell them we're not sewage workers?
Yeah.
Okay, and then when they ask us how we got into the city, what do we say?
Sorry, what was the question?
How did we get into the city if we tell them we're not sewage workers? There's the big issue of how we got the watch tokens. Why don't we go to the library and do some research and think on it?
Let's think on it.
Could we not say that we got the... Sorry, could we not say that we got the tokens because we're old family friends of Mary and we're invited to the Idlewent Ball?
I think they're just for people who are working, aren't they? Is that right?
Oh, I see. So not for residents.
Ed, is that
like I say, like the means of qualifying for a token is kind of vague, and you get the impression that it is for those already in the know. So businesses are allowed to keep going as usual, but with tokens. And probably people who have, by necessity, to move from lower to upper city, have probably an arrangement with the City Watch. But in terms of specifics and how that is applied for, how they're given out, you don't really know. You only know that you are in possession of them and that they were bought less than legally.
I turn to Fridolf and Mary again. Sorry to ask this, but look, is there any way that your family would have access to these tokens?
Fridolf is still just looking off to one side, but Mary just squeezes his hand and she looks up. Very possibly. I mean, Fridolf's parents hold a tremendous amount of sway in the upper city. Why?
Sorry.
Why?
Oh, why? Well, we didn't get ours entirely legitimately, did we? So we need a way of explanation as to how we came here. And I suppose I was wondering if it's realistic that your family might give guests tokens for things like, say, a party.
Will that help?
I think so.
Then I will ask.
Thank you.
Ed, just out of game, what was the name of... I'm looking at my notes, I can't seem to find it. What was the name of the sergeant we... was it the sergeant? He was a lieutenant, wasn't it?
Sergeant, so Mariah Lambert.
No, when we were in Waterdeep.
Oh, in Waterdeep, it was Sword Captain Stockholm. No, sorry.
Wasn't it just Stock?
Stockman. It was Stockman.
There we
Yeah,
go.
Captain Stockman.
Captain Stockman. Okay.
If we manage to get hold of a reason as to how we have these watch tokens, we could explain our not telling the truth by saying that it was not our reputation on the line.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't want to give away the fact that we were given them by someone of importance.
Ed,
Yes.
you know my box of paper birds?
Yes.
How long does it take the bird to get there and get back?
It's hard to tell, and Spinwin didn't tell you. But I mean,
Bastard.
you can give it a go.
I'm just wondering whether... Spinwin gave me a box of messenger birds that I can write letters to people and send them. Would it be useful? I don't know how long it takes, but would it be useful to write one to Captain Stockman and ask him to vouch for us?
I think because of he's days away, because it took us 2 days to sail here. And then
It was around 6 days.
6 days, sorry. It's quite a long way away, and we have to be there for tomorrow. I don't know if that's going to be long enough.
I mean, we have the letter, which does the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I get, something more specific would be nice, but it's something.
So, is there a library in Upper City?
Mary looks up and yes, there is. There's the shelves. Are their names the shelves? I'd be happy. Well, I'd be happy to walk you there if you need.
Would you just give us directions, Mary? You're needed here.
It's near the edge of the district where my Manaborn becomes temples. As she's talking, and specifically Zini, as you're talking, Fridolf looks up for the first time and looks at all of you with this shell-shocked gaze, and looking at you, Zini, he just goes, "Is this my fault?"
How could it be?
You were right. I didn't tell the watch everything, and now the boy is dead.
The way I see it, not any member of that meeting told the watch anything. And someone knows. The only person's fault, who it is that person. And I feel fairly safe in saying this, but we are going to try our best to find that person and see that justice is done.
He just nods, and as you're talking, there is at the door, and both Mary and Fridolf look, and the door to the dining room opens, and through it there comes quite a tall, quite lithe, muscular half-elf, sort of light brown skin, slicked back, black hair. He's wearing a dark green jerkin, patterned in these green diamond shapes, and he's wearing a heavy coat over the top, and he just peeks round and looks past you all at the lord and lady of the house, and I came as soon as I heard. Where is he? And Fridolf just shakes his head. Well, as soon as your parents heard, they asked for me to come and fetch you. Now they won't brook any arguing. They want you to come to Idlewild Manor immediately. They feel it is safer for you there, and Mary waves in. Elman, please, we are We are mourning. And the half-elf looks at the rest of you and... Very well, but, they were quite insistent. Please, Elman. When we're ready. And he stands there. Well, can I be of any assistance at all? And she looks at you all and, well, and gestures to you. And he looks amongst you, fairly taken aback by this ragtag group of strangers in Mary and Fridolf's house, but yes, of course. My name is Elman Tridecker. I am the major domo of the Idlewent household. How may I be of assistance?
You're the what?
A major domo, the head butler.
What was his surname?
Tridecker. Tridecker.
Thank you. We might need your help with some watch tokens.
How do you mean?
We have some, but they're a little bit suspect.
He looks you up and down, and there's a sort of acknowledging, I see that look in his eyes.
Do I realise that that's the look he means?
I make an insight check, but he's not trying to hide it that much.
The shade.
I know.
He's not hiding it. You see it.
I bristle.
Okay.
We're trying to help. We want to get this sorted out, but we need the watch to know that we are here to help the Idlewent.
He looks like he's about to retort when Mary just, Elman, please. They saved our lives. And he... It's a look of acknowledgement across his face, and then... Well, of course I do not have the authority to do that. But... And he looks across at Mary and Fridolf. Perhaps if their children were to come visit, you might be permitted to join. Is that acceptable? And Mary looks up and at each of you. May we consider it? And he. Your home is always there, if you need it. She looks at each of you and gives a curt bow and leaves. Mary looks at all of you. I'm happy to go if you need it.
What do you need?
Space. And time, I feel.
Can you get that there?
It's a big house. I'm sure we can manage.
Which one of you is the android?
Well, it lit up Diani's screen, but I couldn't hear anything his.
It's strange.
So Mary looks up at each of you and just... If it helps you solve this.
I think I might. But Fridolf, I think we need to persuade your father that he needs to come clean with the watch too.
He looks up and just gives a grave nod before looking back down at the table once more.
Does it sound like the watch is still outside?
Yeah, very much so. And sort of as Elman came in, you can see that they are, in a very medieval CSI kind of way, they are sort of labeling areas of the ground that are of note.
With numbered bits of parchment.
Yeah. It keeps on like curling back up, so they have to just like put rocks down.
Yeah.
2 rocks on either side, just to keep it there.
So, what are you all doing?
Well, it looks like we're going to meet Thomas sooner than expected.
Yeah.
I'm
Looks
just not
that way.
entirely certain how much use it will be giving all the information to the watch.
So give some, not all.
Well, I know whatever it is that he knows about this meeting. I don't know whether it'll be helpful. It might be helpful for us to know, but I don't know if it's helpful for them to know.
Well, maybe we can persuade him to tell us, and we can decide, although this information does seem quite dangerous, and if somebody knows that we know, we might be facing more creepy skeleton things.
Well, we'll make sure we don't have any mirrors from now on.
But also, if the creatures come after us, or if indeed any other sort of enemies, perhaps even assassins or thugs or whatever comes our way, we might be able to discern more information from it than just wandering around hoping to catch a lucky break.
Agreed, but I'll be honest, that hurt.
That is true.
And that was one.
Yeah.
If this individual or group that is summoning these things sends more than one, I'm not sure we can handle it.
That is true. So, if we can find out information about the meeting, considering Lord Idlewind to understand that should anyone else know that we don't know if we can trust and that information gets out, their lives, including their children's lives, will be in much greater danger. So whilst we are trying to help on getting that information, it really should not go to anybody else.
And sorry for this, Fridolf, we don't know how trustworthy Thomas is.
He looks up and I assure you, my father has nothing to do with this. I would know.
I'm not saying he does, but secret meetings where everybody ends up dead, he may not have anything to do with the murders, but something's going on.
You may be right. You may be right. And on that note, we're going to take a break. Not least because I really need the lift. So we'll take a quick 15-minute break or so, but yeah,
Okay.
if we leave this on and then we'll
You will just come back, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
but yeah, we'll see everyone in a bit.
Hi, I'm Ed. I am the Dungeon Manager.
And I'm Diani, and I play Oriana.
Now, if you'd like, you can give us a like, a subscribe,
And follow us on Twitter.
and if you want, you can also check out our Patreon below.
Give us your money!
Okay.
Right.
That's,
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
We're back. So let's jump right into it because it is also very late. What is everyone wanting to do in the aftermath of the conversation? Where is everyone going? What is everyone's plans for the day?
I think I'm going to find a library, but not
Okay.
on my own. I'll help to find one, and then my job is done.
Yeah,
I think
I'm gonna go
Scarlet would be best placed at a library. I think
Yeah.
she's got that magic knowledge.
Okay.
She doesn't like a sewer worker.
Are the watch still hanging around?
Make a perception check for me.
Oh. 13.
13. Through the door, you can still hear voices, but as you're sort of listening, you start to hear footsteps coming down the stairs. Heavy, slightly laboured footsteps, but there are two pairs, and they seem to be walking down the stairs. And you hear a bit of a murmur. It's quite a thick door, but you can hear a murmur between the two pairs of guards, and then the footsteps continue. And from your vantage point, through the window, fogged up though it is, you see two figures exit the house, and between them, on a stretcher, a figure covered in a white sheet.
I ask Mary and Fridolf, they're still there, right?
Yep, they're still in the room.
I say, do you mind if I see these drawings that you told us about?
Mary just looks at you and nods, and looks back to her husband.
So yeah, I'll poke my head out the door.
Okay.
See if anyone's around.
The two guards who were surveying the scene earlier are still there, but their attention has moved more into the living area on the opposite side of the hallway. And they're looking around, seeing if there's anything additional that they can find there. But they seem to have finished their business in the hallway.
Okay, so I'll just sort of quickly tiptoe up the stairs.
Okay. Are you trying to be stealthy? Or?
I'm not like, but like, just want to be quiet.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's, you manage to skirt round the side of the remains on the floor and make your way up the stairs.
And then I'll see if there's anyone in his room.
Looking in, you see that there is not. It is empty. The bed is dishevelled and the mirror smashed, toys on the floor, but it is empty.
And then I'll look for any drawings, or really anything that seems relevant.
Okay, make an investigation check for me.
I think that's the third 5 I've rolled. 8.
We are rolling well.
So you look around and you don't find a lot, like there's a lot of mess from the previous evening, but on top of the desk, or at least what remains of it, obviously there are vines and whatnot still out of it and frozen in place from the night before, which as you approach, flowers seem to just bloom out in your direction before pulsating back in again. But as you approach and you sort of look through what was on there, you find a book. It's a small book. It looks like some kind of school book. It's bound very loosely with string. On the front, you can see Nikolai's name just scrawled on the top.
I will open the book to the first page.
So the first page, you can see a lot of writing exercises from school. So writing out sentences, filling in blanks, things like that. And, with your grasp on common, this is kind of more at your level. As you're looking at it, you're sort of looking through and you recognize the words and you turn over the pages, and it's the same for a couple of pages. And there comes a point around maybe 15 pages in where the exercises finish. And instead you see black charcoal drawings. You see circles, you see what look to be mirrors with cloths over them, but in the gap you can see what looks to be a large eye just looking out, and you turn the page again and you see hunched figures with scrawled black all over them. Basically the entire page is just black charcoal with small sort of white naked bits of page imitating bone, claw, skulls. It's the same figure on each page as you turn it over and over and over. A single figure cloaked in black shadow with long, reaching, bony fingernails.
And this is the same figure, presumably, that we saw.
It doesn't look quite accurate, but yes, it looks to be. The stylized, sort of twisted proportions very much look like it.
Is there any further mention of the Mariborn?
Looking through, you see the rhyme that you heard written down a couple of times, but that's it. Nothing more than the rhyme.
Okay. I will take the book downstairs.
Okay. What the rest
well-
of you? Oh, yep.
Is there anything else in the room that might be...
Nothing that really pertains to what you're looking for, I'd say. I mean, it is still very much a mess from the previous evening, but nothing that you can find. It's a child's desk. There's other drawings and some exercise work from school, but that's pretty much it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll take the book downstairs.
Okay. What are the rest of you doing?
Just waiting for terror, I think.
Okay. So, after 5 minutes or so, Terra returns and enters the dining room.
I open it to the first page of drawings and show everyone. It's about what we were expecting.
Yes.
Mary looks up and just goes, yeah, since his parents were taken.
Ed, can you just remind me, did he actually was he in the room when his parents were killed?
I believe that Fridolf told you that they hadn't been able to find out because he's just been basically silent since the night of. He was just hidden from view of the creature to have survived.
Okay. To Mary and Fridolf, do you mind if we hold on to this for our research?
She just shakes her head and says, do with it what you will.
Yeah, and I'll put it away
Okay.
to my increasing inventory. Next to the skull.
Oh, they'll be best friends.
As this is going on, Juliet walks forward and sort of starts to rub up against Mary's leg, and Mary just reaches down and absent-mindedly just tickles the back of her head. And Juliet just sits down and just looks up and just rubs her head sympathetically.
To the
So,
library?
Yeah. I think that we need to find out as much as we can about this creature.
Mary, when are you planning to go to the Idlewents?
I mean, truth be told, I wasn't, but we can be ready whenever you need us to be.
Okay, we'll return back here.
Okay, we'll be here.
I give her another squeeze on the shoulder and go to leave.
Okay.
Would you like Juliet to stay with you? She's quite good company, you know.
She looks up at you and just gives a very forced but very genuine smile, and you see the tears brimming in her eyes once more, and she... I can look after her until you get back.
Lovely, thank you. Now, be good, Juliet. Some very expensive things in this house, so keep your tentacles to yourself.
She purrs in recognition that this is a very fancy place.
Yes, she understands.
She's been brought up to understand the finer things in life. Okay.
Did she give us directions?
Yeah, she said it's on the outskirts of the Mannerborn district near two temples.
Okay, cool. We're allowed out at this time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's daytime now. It's probably around 9 in the morning, probably.
Okay.
So you've got a whole day ahead.
Shall we still split up and go in smaller groups just so that we're less conspicuous?
I think people are allowed here during the day, though, even if they don't have tokens, right?
Well, they're not letting anyone in the gates.
But since we're already in,
Yeah.
let's do that. I don't think it'll match at this stage.
Okay.
So you're heading towards the shelves?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
Just
so...
as we,
Get my map out.
Yeah.
Rodigan's fairly nearby in some stables, isn't he?
Yes, he is, yeah.
Yeah, as we go past, is that in the same direction or in a slightly different one?
You'd have to diverge a little bit, but not by much.
Yeah, and so I diverge a little bit and say, I'll catch up. And go to Rodigan and find him and just say to him, if anything happens at that house, you charge in, horn first, okay?
And just nuzzles up against you, and you get the sense that he's checking you're okay more than anything.
I'm not right now, but I think yeah. Thanks, buddy. And then I go and catch up with the others.
Okay. So, it takes you around, I'd say, half an hour, 40 minutes to find your way to the shelves. But ahead of you, walking through these fancy streets where people are walking backwards and forwards through the snow. The snowfall itself is quite soft at this stage. It's still very bracing, still very cold, but people walk around you to and fro with fur scarves and fur coats. And walking through, eventually you come to a large building, shaped sort of fairly similar to Notre Dame. It's got two large towers on either side and then a slightly lower portion in the middle. Other than that, it reaches back quite a way with large verdigris roofing on top, though you can hardly see the bluey green of the roof for the snow that lays upon it. There are large windows set into the surface of the building, but running horizontally across every floor of the building, mimicking the shape of shelves, there are wooden beams across the entirety of the building. It looks fairly quiet. It seems that people, especially considering how fraught the city is at the moment, aren't really frequenting these sorts of places at the moment. Just places of necessity. But the doors are open. The large...
Real Ed, too real.
Yeah. The large oak doors are wide open.
I just sort of hold back and let everyone else go in.
Okay.
And follow.
Okay. So heading in, you see a large open space. There are shelving units all the way down the entirety. It's basically, it kind of looks a bit like a converted cathedral. There are rows and rows and rows of wooden bookshelves as far as you can see down to the end. Giant chandeliers made of cast iron are down the center of this magnificent roof. The space itself is open, and there are large balconies all around you with spiral staircases moving up to further rows of books. It is vast, and looking around, you can see desks, people sat at them in sort of scholarly and monastic robes, and you can see people moving around with shelving carts and placing books back on. The uniform here seems to be fairly simple, sort of, like I say, almost monastic, brown, heavy-set robes. But it is, of course, very quiet.
Is there like a front desk kind of place?
Yeah, sort of as you enter, there's a wooden desk, and you can see a couple of people behind it. You see one dwarf, you see two humans stood, and they're moving around, sort of like rifling through some returns that they have, and there seems to be a rope barrier in front of the main entrance next to the desk.
I'd just go and wait by the desk until I catch their attention.
One of the humans turns around to you. He's a fairly elderly man with quite bushy sideburns, but no real beard to speak of. He turns around and he has this wrinkled face, and he looks around at you, and his eyes are very grey. Hello, how can I help you?
Hi, my friends and I, we need some books on magic.
Magic as in folklore or more practical
Both.
application?
Really?
Well, in terms of literature and fantasy, you'll find that towards the southeast corner. In terms of magic, is it spells? Is it history of? Or...
Again, both.
Creatures.
Yeah.
Like a bestiary?
More summoning?
Also creatures.
Like a bestiary?
Yes.
Yes, like a beast.
Very well. Well, for more natural creatures, as you were saying, you'll probably want to go up 2 floors and straight down, and you'll find a section on that. And as for magic, we have history of, we have spell lists, we have alchemical books as well, and you'll find them down on the ground floor. Continue going all the way down to the end on the right-hand side. You won't be able to miss it.
Thank you very much. I'm assuming that we are allowed to peruse. There's no restrictions, or there's no.
No, of course, no. Simply, if you want to take a book out, simply bring it back to us, and we'll make a note of your details. And
Well, we can take books with us.
Yes, of course you can. We have a deposit system.
Wow. Okay. This is very different to Waterdeep. That's great. So I turn around. So, Scarlet, I think you and I should go looking at the alchemical and spell list stuff. Do you?
Yes, I think that's probably a good plan.
So, who wants to take folklore and who wants to take the bestiary?
I'll take the fairy tales.
I'll take bestiary.
And
Oh, Tara, are you with us, or did you say you were?
Yeah, no, I followed after you.
Oh, right, okay.
she was just behind us.
I'll take the bestiary.
And Ariana, do you want to go with anyone, or are you going to just peruse on your own?
I might need some help.
Sure, I can help.
Okay, so we go off in those directions then, I think.
Okay, so if everyone who is looking into it either make an investigation check, or if you want to assist someone else, that person can roll at advantage. I would.
Are you assisting me? So I'll do advantage.
Okay.
Ed,
Yes.
Whilst Scarlet, because I trust Scarlet to look for specific stuff, whilst Scarlet is looking at that, can I look for, like, magic going awry and spells not working how they're supposed to? Just
of course you can.
On the DL.
On the fly, yeah.
It's not going to go well because my investigation's terrible.
So, what did you want to scream at us, Diani?
I was going to say, can I do my own roll, or do I have to assist?
No, you can make your own roll.
I mean, I rolled a 4 and then a 5.
Because I've rolled a dirty 20.
Okay.
So let's say we both look separately. I mean, let's say if I take the 4, it's 7.
It sort of makes sense. I already know kind of what the creature is, so I guess maybe I know what to look out for.
Yeah, okay. In order. So, Dalifar, you're looking at the bestiary, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so what did you roll?
14.
14. So, looking through, over the next couple of hours or so, you accrue quite a collection of books, and, like, almost as tall as yourself, eventually. You can see a number of scholars on other tables just looking across at you as interrupting the silence every so often. At regular sort of quarterly intervals, there is just another on the table as you put down another stack, and every so often their ink just... and they continue writing. In terms of looking into specifically what you came across the previous night, obviously you have some additional information from Oriana, which makes it a bit easier. And you're able to read up on bone claws.
Okay.
You find them mostly in religious texts, specifically ones that deal with the Nine Hells,
Okay.
which is a realm, a demonic realm. The Nine Hells.
It's not a demonic realm, it's a devilish
Devil, sorry, yes.
just to be a pedant.
Yeah.
Does that mean that they're from there? Is that what you mean when you say you find them?
Yes, so in the, many of them in their original form you will find in the Nine Hells. It is very rare to see one on the material plane, especially in amongst mortals. But, as Oriana said, you do often find them if they are conjured into being. In terms of abilities, this is a little more obscure, especially given your research, and your research is quite thinly spread. Spreadly thin. Sounds like a character.
Yeah, that's the new that's the new bard you're going to introduce us to.
Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of their abilities, they are very rarely seen, mainly due to their abilities to travel through shadow. They can exist in light, but the night, the darkness, and the shadows are their preferred environment. That, I would say, with your role, is probably as much as you're able to ascertain.
Okay.
Michael and Jess, what did you roll?
So my first roll was cocked. My second roll was worse, and it was 4.
Okay. So I would say, as Xenia's sort of going off and doing her own thing, obviously you're trying to be fairly inconspicuous as you're trying to like look for books.
And also very not familiar with libraries.
Yeah, and this hampers your investigation somewhat. Ultimately, you're not really able to find much. You are able to find one story about a wizard who accidentally turned his hind legs into octopus, and had difficulty for the better part of 3 months until it was eventually reversed.
Point of clarification. When you say just his hind legs, was it just 2 octopus legs, or did they become more legs?
It appears to be more legs.
Oh.
So yeah, he... Yeah.
So accidentally very skillful.
Very skillful, but
But
no
not
idea how he did it. Absolutely no idea how he did it.
You're attempting to summon a bone claw.
No. Scarlett, what did you want?
21.
21. Okay. Is there anything in particular that you're wanting to look into in your investigation?
I think as Scarlett specifically sensed the transmutation and the fact she is quite skilled at transmutation, because that's quite helpful in cooking, if you're turning one thing to another thing, you know, it's all to that banner. And she would probably specifically look at how you would create something like the bone claw via transmutation.
Okay. So, in your research, and you immediately know what you're looking for and where you're looking for it. You are accustomed with books. You are accustomed with the acquisition of knowledge, specifically magical. And you bring out your own tome, your cookbook, to sort of compare notes, specifically with your interest in transmutation. And looking at things specifically like conjuration, you looking specifically into how a creature like this might inhabit this plane of existence, the only means it might be able to do so would be conjuration. And there was none of that last night. Transmutation, as you know, is the shifting of one thing to another. What this means, as far as the creature goes, you're not entirely sure. But you do get the impression that something in that room is not what it was before. And as to how this pertains to the actual bone claw itself, that in of itself is kind of murky. But yeah, that's kind of as much as you're able to ascertain, even with such a high roll.
No, that's fine. I think she finds that very interesting and has a plan for what to do next. But I'll let you do the rest of the books.
Okay.
I love a plan.
Yeah.
So, Oriana and Terra, what was it you rolled again?
Don't ask me.
So you're looking specifically into the folkloric tales and things like that. Okay.
Specifically, I would like to look into the Maribor.
Okay.
But obviously I rolled bad, so, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'd say you'll probably both end up pursuing a similar line of investigation. So, Terra, obviously you're looking through books and you're trying to find titles that jump out to you and you're trying to flick through, and obviously your grasp on common does make this more difficult. And eventually you find Oriana is sort of picking out books and seems to know which ones are probably going to be suited to your investigation. And between the two of you, sort of books are passed out, and Terry, you find yourself scanning specifically for pictures, anything that kind of looks like the creature from the previous night, and you're able to see a few and sort of pass them over to Oriana. Oriana, looking through, it's not commonly referred to, but you are able to discover a little more about this mysterious force called the Marrowborn. The Marrowborn are boogeymen who come in the dark of night. That is the popular story. But as you continue your research, you start to move slightly away from folklore, and you start to look at worship. You start to see a few things that cross over, and a bone claw, specifically, and the fact that one has come onto the material plane suggests that it has been dragged here somehow. So instinctively you start to look elsewhere, and you start to see writings of those who worship bone, those who revere marrow, and those who worship a trio of devil entities called the Bone Cardra.
The what, sorry?
The Bone Cardra.
Cardra.
Yeah.
How do you spell Cardra?
Cadre.
Okay.
There is, as you look, there's not much more than this. And as you research, you get the impression that being a public library, there's probably a limited amount you're going to find on this, but they're whispers. Most of them rumors, most of it hearsay, but as you're reading, as you're researching, you start to realize that there is probably some connection, be that one myth was derived from the other, one was lost in translation. It's hard to tell, but that is what you find.
Okay.
And that those who worship the Bone Cardra are known for summoning similar creatures, bone claws, bone devils. Basically, you get the impression that bone and marrow are probably very much their oeuvre.
So the bone Cardra, is that an entity, a being, or is it?
It's a trio.
It's a tree?
What of? It's the writings don't make clear, and it is just a name. But
Didn't you say it was a trio of devil entities?
yes,
Or was that something that was that? Okay.
yes. But what those are specifically,
Yeah.
the writings don't say. But
Can
you find.
Sorry.
No, you go.
When was the latest, when was the last mention of this, like in history, like across these books that Oriana's found, like?
I mean, a lot of them sort of span quite a wide period of time, but the book that you're reading at the moment is sort of like, it's kind of like a light guide to sort of basically like conspiracy theory, like cults and Faerun and all that kind of stuff. But this, you gather, would probably been written around 5-6 years ago.
Oh, so quite recent then.
Yeah.
Does it have an author?
It does not. No, it's a collected work. So it's sort of like basically a collection of writings of different people. So it's not ascribed to any one person. Sorry.
It's okay.
We demand fantasy author name now.
King Stephen.
Yeah.
So is there anything anyone else is wanting to do while they're in the library?
Not from me.
Okay.
What do we know about the meeting that Thomas Idle went to? We literally know nothing at all, or do we have any?
All you know is that you know the people who went, and you know that Fridolf believed it to be a business meeting.
Okay. Would there be information in this library about the Idlewents? Would there be any kind of, as a local family?
Make a separate investigation check for me.
And I'm going to ask Oriana to also help me find them.
Do that.
So I'll give you advantage. That might work better.
Oh, right, I see. Okie doke.
I mean, I have a +3 on investigation, but
18.
18. Information about the Idlewents is plentiful. As you read, they are a long-standing presence in Baldur's Gate, maybe even since its founding. They are a family of architects. They are responsible for a great many of specifically Upper Cities buildings, but perhaps the zenith of their influence came with the last generation's Idlewent, Lord Carmichael Idlewent, responsible for many of the buildings within Upper City, and in particular, verdigris roofing was an innovation of Carmichael. He passed away around 10 years ago, leaving everything to his son, Lord Thomas Idlewent, who inherited the architectural business and has gone on to renovate areas of the city, particularly the older portions as well. But they are a family that have a lot of sway and a long, storied history in the city.
Do they also work outside the city?
I'd say through your investigation, you know that they are architects of some renown, and there are areas in Faerun that have seen some of their designs. Waterdeep is one of them, especially when there were renovations to Castle Waterdeep. It was the Idlewents who were brought in. And you also note that there are some in Neverwinter as well.
Does this library, as a fantasy library, does it have a fantasy newspaper backup system with old newspapers?
Well, there's the Baldur's Mouth, and I'd say they would probably have an area where you can glance through old copies.
Can I ask Oriana to look for?
I'll fold it in with the same investigation check. What is it you're wanting to look for?
I suppose, like gossip, like anything, where someone's written like anything bad about them.
About the Idlewents specifically?
Yeah.
I mean, looking through, the Baldur's Mouth has been going for some time now, and as noted previously, like it is a fairly centrist newspaper with a little bit of a left leaning, but every so often you sort of see articles criticizing elements of the way that the city are occasionally run, and you see a few things that appear to be digs at the upper city. For the most part, though, it seems to toe the line fairly carefully, and you get the impression in reading it that the writers and the owners of the Baldur's Mouth probably don't want to be shut down by people with too much influence. Mm-hmm. That said, in terms of the Idlewents specifically, recently there is a lot of good word around the Idlewent family, specifically because a lot of their work, mainly it has to be said, fronted by Fridolf, has spread out into the lower city, and there's been orphanages built. One of the ones of which you see is the one that you and Zemi visited. Also, elements of the docks as well, and a couple of the temples as well in the lower city. But yeah, there's not much of a bad word said about the Idlewent family. Like, they are quite mysterious just by virtue of living in Upper City, away from the people who write the Baldur's Mouth. But yeah.
Okay, but they don't have any direct control over the law or anything. They are.
No, they're just very well respected, very very powerful, very rich, but just well respected. They don't have any say in, or don't appear to have any say in governance or laws or rulings or justice or anything like that.
Okay, and then last question about the newspaper.
Yep.
Is there any reports of people being sort of anything that might ring a bell of the what we've now learned about the Mariborn, like any bone related stuff, anything about, but like in the lower city as well, because I'd assume that the upper city stuff is being talked about more because it's important wealthy people. So is there anything that went unsolved in the lower city that might have been put in the newspaper? I
would say make another investigation check for this. At advantage, Oriana.
19.
19.
Teamwork.
You have to look back a fair amount. At first, it seems that the first of these sightings was, obviously the murders themselves only started last month, and there's been no connection with anything to do with a bone creature. As far as the City Watch are concerned, and indeed yourselves, you are the first person and the first group to have seen this. As far as the rest of the city are concerned, much to the chagrin of the lower city, the servants are being blamed, and the servants are the ones found at the scenes of the crime, and the servants are the ones with the bloody weapons in their hands. But around 20 years ago, there was a sighting in Lower City. Reports of a bone-like creature stalking round a temple. A temple specifically to Gond. Gond. But they're just rumors. Reports of a figure stalking the night. And this happened for around a week or so. And then you see no mention of it after that.
Then it says specifically which temple it is, or
a temple of Gond in the where is it? Let me just check.
in the Lower City.
In the Lower City. I just need to check my notes as to more, so I can be accurate.
It's good. I'm glad this thread already existed in your notes.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, like, whoa, that's pre-planning.
Yeah.
But then it is Ed.
Yeah.
So that was in Bloomridge.
Okay.
Cool.
Interesting. Okay, cool. I'm satisfied.
Okay.
You can stop reading for me now, Ariana.
I mean, it's like the one thing that I'm good at right now.
I read for you. I read your book.
You did. Only like a page though. Still got loads more pages to read.
Oh, okay. Well, we can do some of that today.
It's a very thick book.
Thick.
Very thick.
With 2 C's.
So many C's.
So many.
So, is there anything else that anyone's wanting to do in the library or immediately?
I'm all read out. Don't want to do any more reading.
I'm all investigated out.
Okay.
Same.
I'm just annoyed.
So
I guess we gather and share our findings.
Share our findings. Yeah.
Does anyone want to take any books out?
No.
No.
No, I don't think so.
Well, but the one that Ariana found about the worshippers of bone and marrow might be useful for the watch.
Yeah, if we're telling them stuff.
Well, true. It's just, they might find a weird altar in somebody's house.
Well, speaking of altars, it sounds like there might be a temple that we could have a look at.
Oh?
In the Lower City, in Bloomridge.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's a long shot, but there was a report 20 years ago of a bone creature wandering around for 10 days or so.
20 years ago.
Sure. I suppose I'm thinking if there's a group of people who worship creatures like this, they might use part of the temple to perform their rituals.
True.
They might have been testing it, and then moved up in the city as they killed people who were in their way.
Agreed.
Who was the temple to?
Someone called Gond.
Does that ring any bells, Ed?
Yeah.
Make a religion check for me.
Oh,
Anyone
yeah.
interested?
My favourite.
Brilliant. I will do the same.
Scarlet refuses that principle.
13.
Okay.
8.
So together it's a 21.
Yeah!
Dalifar, you're unfamiliar with this. A lot of the gods of Faerun, while they have made their way over to your side of the sea, this is not one of them.
Okay.
But Zini, you would know from sort of pilgrims passing through Boldhaven, especially, that Gond is essentially the god of invention. He's the god of inspiration and of construction, frequently associated with anvils and building. It is the pilgrims that you met who passed through hailed from the city of Neverwinter, and you get the impression that quite a quite a renowned figure in the city.
So, if Gond is the god of invention, construction, and inspiration, and the Idlewents are architects, we need to find out what happened 20 years ago. We need to find out if the Idlewents were connected in any way with that temple.
Yeah.
Designed it.
Is when I was looking up the Idlewents, what were they doing 20 years ago? Was that when he died 10 years ago, Lord Carmichael?
Yeah.
So was there anything of note 20 years ago?
So Lord Carmichael was quite old at that time, and by that stage, his son was working alongside him. So it was Carmichael and Thomas heading the business. All of their work was very much linked with Upper City. Still, Carmichael's efforts were very much on the improvement of the Mannerborn district and Temples district as well.
So while we're in the library, can we is there a list of buildings that the Idlewents worked on, and can we find out if this temple was one of them?
If you...
Not me, I mean anyone else.
Your investigation is probably the best, but you and I are rolling the worst.
But I can't read.
True.
I'm
happy to try and have a look if Terra's helping.
Sorry, what was the question?
So we're looking for a list of basically buildings that the Idlewents worked on to see if this temple to Gond was one of them.
Even though it was in that lower city, it might have been a test case for them, or there's a possibility.
Yeah. True. Okay. I'm happy to help look for. Well, are we looking in the same place, or are we finding out?
I'm happy for one person to lead this and for two different people to investigate, or...
I think let's just have one of us roll the advantage, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just not me.
Okay, I'll give it a try, even though I feel terribly.
Go for it.
Natural 20, first roll.
Yeah!
Yay! It's because we were all helping.
So, 22.
22. So, Zini, you are able to, after asking around, obviously, cities, not your natural environment, but you are able to ascertain from the librarian that you met on your way in that the buildings and records are just around the corner. You'll find them 5 aisles down.
Thank
you head on down, and true to word, they seem to be like almost wooden filing cabinets in a way. They come out quite a bit. And within them, you can see a number of city records. You can also see, as you're looking through, a number of different blueprints of different areas of the city. You can see the old sewer network that used
I
to
grab it as evidence that we're sewage workers.
You find blueprints of the old sewer systems before it was renovated, and looking at it, especially with your high investigation score, you start to look and you're like, a lot of this looks quite similar to a lot of the undercellar. So you're able to see a few buildings. There are a couple of records and deeds as well, specifically signed off, and eventually you are able to find a large chunk that are signed off by various members of the Idlewent family. Starting most recent, you can see Thomas Idlewent's signatures on a few. You can see Fridolf's as well on a few, mainly on lower city properties. Tellingly, they do not have the same business association as Thomas Idlewent. They are very much separate entities in terms of the way they conduct business. And then going back a few more years, you find Carmichael Idlewent, and even further back, Lucas Idlewent, his father. Around 20 years ago, in amongst all of the deeds for Upper City and planning permission for areas in Mannerborn and District, you find one lone sort of blueprint and matching signed, basically sign off of agreeing to architectural plans, signed by Carmichael Idlewind. And it's for a Temple of Gond in Blue.
What was the date on it?
I don't know what the year would be.
Not the date, but is it like, how does
Give us the
like,
day,
the exact
the day of the month.
So
how does it line up with the whole 10 years, 20 years?
It is, so the dates that you read in the paper, that 10-day, significantly after this
Okay.
renovation. And it was
they-
a renovation.
Okay. And it was Carmichael.
Carmichael Idlewind.
And that wasn't a Carmichael and Thomas thing. That was just a Carmichael thing.
That was just Carmichael.
The Idlewents are in this.
I think so.
Whether they're doing it, I don't know. I don't think Fridolf knows. But either Carmichael and then Thomas are doing this, or someone is doing this on their buildings.
Does it have actual blueprints of this temple?
It seems to, yes.
Can I have a look? As a visual thing with no words,
Yeah?
can I look at it and see if there's anything like any suspicious little like secret passageways and like, you know, basements and stuff?
Yeah, make a, I'd say for this, just an intelligence check, straight intelligence.
Scarlet, do you think
Yeah.
do you think you can copy these blueprints?
I can try.
Please.
How complex are they? Is this like a doable thing? Or
Fairly
Yeah.
doable. I mean, especially like they are huge. It's kind of
Yeah.
like A3 sized scrolls. So yeah, it'll be fairly easy, I'd say.
easy, it's cool.
Yeah. So if you want to give it a go,
I will give it a go. What role would that be?
So we've said drawing and art stuff as performance. So
Yes, I think we've usually done that.
Will she roll advantage if I'm helping in some way, shape, or form?
how will you be helping?
Yeah.
Well, because it is a it
Just
is a
proper
it is,
ghost style, just like
well, I'm
So-
thinking because it is a very large piece of paper or parchment. I am holding it down and making sure that whatever she's copying is held still, so that
You're being the rocks on the corners.
I am being the rocks in the corners and being.
tell you what, because of your stone cunning, I'll say that with your knowledge of architecture and building work, I'd say you can probably guide her a little bit as to what different things mean. If that,
Yes.
Yeah. So-
Okay, cool.
so if you'd like to make a performance check,
Let's give this a go.
Tara, what did you roll?
I rolled an 18.
18.
What was my night so far?
I thought you were about to say your life. And I was
That's
like,
not my life.
yeah, it seems legit. It seems like a temple. There is a wide open area for pews. There are pillars. There's space for an altar at one end. There are vestibules that lead off to various sort of places where choir robes would be, and priestly vestments, and sort of where holy water is topped up and things like that. There's also plans for a large ornate statue of an anvil right in the middle. But yeah, it seems like a temple. Jess, what did you roll?
First one was 2, so that would have been 5. Second one's 15.
15. Yeah, I'd say you're able to produce a fairly accurate
Yeah.
facsimile. Yeah, it is, as with sort of architectural designs, it is fairly simple line work. Obviously, the dimensions you're not like, you're a bit iffy on, but you're like, that'll do.
It'll
But,
be
like,
fine.
in terms of the details of it, it's there.
I mean, somehow all my drawing checks have been really well.
You're an artiste, darling. An artiste.
You're a thief.
Yeah. I'm just perfect at every creative endeavour. That's
So, what is everyone wanting to do now?
I suppose we should go and meet Thomas.
Well, wait, when are we going to the watch? Is that tomorrow? That's tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's
Tomorrow,
next week.
yeah.
Okay. Ooh, good. Yes.
I would like, if possible, if we can find any of that mirror that it used to enter, I would like to take a piece for study, but it might have been thrown away by now.
Or thrown away or taken away. They
I
might.
think there was still a bit of mirror up there when I went earlier.
Yeah, there was quite a bit still on the floor.
Yeah.
Well, we need to go back to the house to talk
Yeah.
to Mary and Fridolf
Yeah.
to get to the main Idlewind Manor, so we can check, definitely.
Did sorry.
No, go ahead, Catherine.
Well, who was reading about bone claws? That was you, Billy, was it, Dalifar?
Yes.
Did you tell us about that stuff?
Yeah, I think in the general discussion of what we were talking about, it was that I can't read my own handwriting.
I've written the notes. I'm just wondering if you told us about it.
Yeah, because we gathered up and then we started exchanging what we'd found. So I would say that at that point, I sort of told you what I had read up on the context of the bone claws, and things like that.
So you said that they travel through shadow.
They prefer to travel through shadow, night, and
Doesn't
darkness.
say anything about mirrors.
No, but they'll predominantly prefer to travel during the night time, which I think the mirror is just a conduit through which they can travel from one place to another, like a corridor or doorway to somewhere. But that's why I think most incidents happen at night, because it is dark and there's very little natural light, I would suggest. So,
Ed, is that what it did? Remind me when it was in the tangled vines and then it sort of went into the hallway. Was that because it went from shadow to shadow?
I would say you would probably surmise yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the case.
I'm just curious about this, the fact that it doesn't mention mirrors. Yeah, so I'm curious about why they haven't written anything about mirrors, and I'm wondering if that's more to do with this specific instance and maybe the way they were brought here rather than how they actually behave normally. And I'm looking at Scarlet.
Yes, yeah. I agree, Tara. These things are usually conjured in. I don't believe there was any conjuration magic involved. There was transmutation magic in the room, which makes me think perhaps the bone claw or marrow brawn or whatever you'd like to call it was already here in Waterdeep. Not Waterdeep. Baldur's Gate.
it traveled back.
Well, if the murderer turns out to be in Waterdeep, I've just solved the mystery. Well done it. So potentially the mirrors were transmuted into some sort of portal. Another less likely option is that these weren't bone claws at all, but some semblance of them that was transmuted from human bones, although given their behaviour and the necromantic spells it use, that does seem rather less likely.
Ed,
Yes.
I'm just thinking about the fact that you said, so the servants are found with a weapon, a
Yes.
bloodied weapon?
Yeah, so each of the murders, a servant has been found standing over the deceased with a mirror cracked to one side, bloodied weapon in their hand, and their own tongue cut out, with the deceased's entrails torn out and their ribs splayed open.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask. What was the actual injury? So obviously that didn't happen with Nikolai. He didn't have any injury in that sense, right?
Well, Nikolai died when the creature seemed to be fleeing you all.
Yeah.
So
There's something different about how it kills the other people.
I think it's still within the same realm of what it does because it's not necessarily kills it itself. It can take control of the mind of someone in order to fulfill what it needs to do to kill.
Right. So you think the servants did kind of do it then? Just
They were being controlled. I don't think they had any choice in the matter.
Interesting. Why would it do that if it could just do it itself?
Because then it doesn't show that it's a fantastical culprit.
But also, because it's being summoned, it could be directed to do that in order for the blame to be inexplicably linked to the servants. Therefore, it's a sort of open and shut case, and there's no follow-up. It seems almost sort of random, but more of them in the fact that any servant or any person could be taken control of, and therefore become the murderer if it so chooses to do so.
So we need to know who would want the servants to take the blame for this and who would want these people not around anymore.
Yes.
And why they're family members as well.
It
So
could
we
be.
need to go talk to Thomas.
Yeah, it could be a power move. It could be sort of some deep-seated hatred. It could be anything right now. So
Could be religious.
it could be absolutely religious. Yeah. So we don't know right now.
Okay. Everyone done here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Right. I will walk on out.
So,
Me too.
Yeah. We just walk out.
I say bye to the librarian.
We all.
goodbye.
We wave.
Thank
See
you.
you again soon.
I like him much more than the last librarian we were.
Oh my god.
He's so much better.
So, you exit into the upper city. On your way back to Garland House, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Yes.
You,
You head on back, walking through the snowy streets. Underneath the streets, down in the undercellar, there is a pit. A pit that is around 30 feet across. And at one end, there sits a small Sverfneblin, little deep gnome, stood there. And at the other end of the tunnel, an iron door creaks open. And a figure walks through. And behind them, two silhouetted figures fall to their knees, knock heads against one another, and fall to the ground. The figure closes the door behind them and walks forward. The Sverfneblin looks up.
Don't be killing sellers. Is that? You're in trouble now.
The figure walks forward and places 5 platinum in the gnome's hands.
Boss! Other one coming over now.
And pops it in the wooden lockbox and
Get on, please, get on.
And the figure silently takes the pole and stands on the platform. He slowly starts to move across to the other side. As they continue, Rick on the other side. It's a brave man, wanting to piss off Aurora Candlewick. Can I help you? The figure steps off the other side. Black beard, heavy brown leather coat, bandaged wrists. Looks up. I believe a friend made their way through here. Can you help? And Brick looks down at this newcomer. You know what? I think I can. And that's where we're going to end tonight's session. We made it. We made it with minimal technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. It's so nice to be able to do this again.
I know.
Like a month?
Yeah.
A long time.
Too long.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll figure out when we're doing this again next.
Yeah.
It might be nice to maybe do it more often, seeing as we're self-isolated and we've got nothing else to do.
Weekly.
Every day.
said that?
Every day.
Every day.
Well, I actually work from home, so I can't.
In the evenings.
So we will be back when we're back. In the meantime, thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, click the bell icon, check out our Patreon. It means the world, especially right now when a lot of us being freelancers and a lot of us being furloughed and whatnot. It's a difficult time. So anything you can do to help, be that a share or a review or anything, would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
In the meantime, it's lovely to see all of you.
Love to see you guys.
Great to see you. Stay safe, wash hands, safe distance from one another, and all the safety in the world. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Yeah.